So you're thinking about relocating to Idaho, but you need to know what it really costs to live here. So today I'm going to be sharing with you some sneaky financial expenses along with some sweet financial surprises that you'll find living here in Boise, Idaho. So let's get after it right now. My name is Rachel, and on this channel, I do my very best to answer all of your burning questions about relocating to Idaho. So if you need me to be your eyes and your ears and teach you everything there is about working, playing, and living in Idaho, then go ahead and tap the subscribe button, then click this little bell. That way you never miss one of my videos on living in Idaho. As much as I enjoy making these videos, I'm a licensed realtor and local investor here, and it is my mission to help you successfully and smoothly transition here to the Treasure Valley, Idaho. So please, if you have any questions or if you're relocating here, don't hesitate. Give me a call, shoot me a text, or write me an email. With no further ado, what it actually costs to live in Idaho in 2023. We all know that the economy and the housing market all across the nation is a little bit unpredictable and wacky right now. So today I am going to be breaking down what it's like to live in Boise, Idaho as far as your bank account is concerned. And this information is so important and so critical that I'm actually splitting it up into two videos just because I don't want you to fall asleep on me. I think it's that important that you watch this and part two. And I have a really special famous guest who's going to make a little bit of a not surprise appearance because I'm telling you all about it at the end of this video, so he can give you some financial wisdom on the real estate market and economy. So stay tuned all the way through because you do not want to miss a word that this guy has to say. You're gonna leave feeling like Albert Einstein. But let's jump in. I've got my notes here because while I am a numbers kind of a gal, I am not great at memorizing things. And let's be real, this is a lot of numbers to cover. So let's start with the overall cost of living. In theory, what I'm finding online is that the overall cost of living in Idaho is about 7% higher than anywhere else in the nation. And I think that the reason why some of those numbers look like it's a little bit more expensive to live here than other places is because of how they calculated in transportation. Supposedly, transportation is about 22% more than it is in other places. So I did some digging to see where they're pulling that number from, because really our registration is incredible, and I think where it's coming from is that we don't have a big public transportation system. So here in the Treasure Valley, Idaho, if you're relocating, you're going to need to have a vehicle because you are going to depend on your own car to drive. So of course, if you're spending $20,000 to $60,000 on a vehicle, that's going to cost you quite a bit more than a $1 or $2 bus ticket or a monthly bus pass for $40. So I think that number is really skewing a lot of the data. And as I jump into each line item, you're going to be pleasantly surprised about how much less expensive it is to live here, probably than the places you're relocating from. So California, Washington, Oregon, apples to apples, there is no comparison. It is dirt cheap here compared to those places. So transportation, since I brought it up, let's go ahead and start with that. If you are buying a truck in Idaho, trucks are in high demand here. They are a lot more expensive here in Idaho than they are in other states. So when it comes to purchasing a car, if you're looking for something that's an all-wheel or four-wheel drive, they're in high demand here. They're going to run you a little bit more. Other vehicles, they run about the same as the national average. Now, registration, you are going to save some money here. I got my registration line, bear with me. So You are going to want to refer to itd.idaho.gov for your vehicle specifically because, of course, the price of registration ranges depending on the size and age of your vehicle and what county you're in. But overall, this is about what we're looking at. So if you have one vehicle that is 2 years old, you're looking at $69, $57 for vehicles 3 to 6 years old, $45 for vehicles 7 or more years old, and you can add $140 a year for electric cars. So I don't know where you're coming from, but I know in the past I have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on vehicle registration, and that is one place where you are going to make a big deposit in the bank here in Idaho is on your transportation. As far as the cost of purchasing vehicles, all in all, we are the same as the national average with the exception of big trucks, four-wheel drives, all-wheel drives. They are in high demand here in Idaho. So if you are looking for a truck, it's going to be hard to find one and more expensive. So even on the resale, you're looking at paying, depending on the age of the vehicle, pretty close to what someone bought brand new. I've even heard stories where people have spent more on a used truck than they would have had they bought it new because that's how bad they wanted it. Same thing with things like trailers and campers, RVs, all of that big stuff that people really want when they move to Idaho. You're going to be paying a little bit or sometimes a lot more than you would if you purchased it back home in the other state where you came from. Groceries. Overall, we are about 4% less than the rest of the nation, so you will be putting some money back into your bank if you relocate here when it comes to groceries. Pro tip for you, the farmers out here have great deals. You can buy whole cattle, you can split it up with people in your community. They've got chickens and fruits and vegetables. We've got lots of local farmer markets. Take advantage of the fact that there is food being grown and raised right here in your backyard, and you will save even more money. But for today, I went ahead, we have a local grocery store here named Fred Meyer. It's one of those stores that has a little bit of everything. So kind of like a super Walmart, but a step above. I went on their website. I do most of my shopping curbside, and I put in an order so that I could give you an idea of what it looks like if you are going to the grocery store here. So a gallon of milk was $2.89. A loaf of bread, the least expensive loaf of bread was $1.99, but I picked a loaf of bread that I feel like I know a lot of people eat, and that loaf of bread was $6.49. Eggs, for a dozen eggs, $4.49. But this is one place where you can really save by buying locally. You can get fresh eggs from farmers out here, even a lot of your neighbors who have chickens, because depending on where you live, people have their own chickens. You can buy eggs from them, or you can get your own chickens and save even more money on eggs. And they are so fresh and delicious, and the yolk is bright orange. You just can't beat it. A pound of ground beef, you're looking at $4.99, but again, we have all these local farmers here raising cattle. You can buy a cow with your neighbor or a couple neighbors, get it in bulk, and this price per pound goes way down. I shop at our local co-op, and they carry primarily local and organic foods, and 2 days a month they offer big discounts. One is on all local items, and the other day you can use it anytime you go, and it is for members, and I highly recommend checking out the Boise co-op to help save some money on groceries. Thanks to the Snake River here in Idaho, our electricity is much more affordable than the rest of the nation. So we depend on hydropower, and in my home, electricity is responsible for our lights and our air conditioning. And typically my bills range in the mid-60, except for right in the middle of summer and October through December. And the reason why October through December is I love Christmas, so I put my lights up early and I decorate for Halloween, a Nightmare Before Christmas theme, and then I pull that down after Halloween, and I have my lights on all through November and Christmas, all the way up until New Year's Day. I get the most action out of them I can, and in those months my bills are in the 160s, 188 being the highest last year. So lowest bill, I got it written down, was $62.08, and like I said, my average bill is usually in the mid-60s. Also, it gets dark here fairly early in the winter. I would say there's times where 4:30 it's already pretty dark, so you have your lights on in the house more often. Oh, I have one more thing to add about the electric bill. You can put it on something that we refer to as equal pay, so that your monthly bills are exactly the same every month. That way you don't have a high electric bill and a low electric bill the next month and never know what to expect. But you'll need some history with the electricity in order to apply for equal pay. Also, equal pay is our gas. So the gas is responsible for our furnace, stove, fireplace, and hot water heater. And something a lot of people don't realize is that your water usage actually goes up quite a bit in the winter, and people tend to take much longer showers in the winter time, probably trying to warm up and get rid of those goosebumps after getting undressed in the morning or coming home from the cold at night. So that is a reason for that spike in your gas bill here in Idaho in the winter. And I've got our lowest bill at $11.26 in August, which is incredible. And our highest bill was in December, $82.08. But even still, in November, it was only $24.13. So must have had a lot of long hot showers in December, because that bill was interestingly much higher than all of the rest. That brings us straight into water. And water is a hot topic here in Idaho, especially in the Treasure Valley, because we are a farm town. So water rights, depending on what they are or aren't, you're going to be in a really good position or a really bad position, which is a reason why it is so important and critical that you reach out to myself and my team so that we can make sure that you end up in a location that is suitable as far as the water rights go for you. The other really big deal and reason why you want to reach out to a realtor when it comes to water is because HOAs are king here in the Treasure Valley. So more than likely here, if you end up in the suburbs in Eagle, Meridian, Star, Cuna, kind of anywhere, there's a good chance that you are going to be part of an HOA, which, just a quick side note, HOAs have a really bad rap. Here in Idaho, our HOAs are great. They're quite the blessing. Irrigation water might be included in your HOA, and it's very likely that it's included in your HOA, which means watering your lawn is not going to cost you anything, and that water will be on spring through part of fall. If you end up in an HOA where irrigation water is not included, but you're still required to keep your grass really green, you might end up in a situation where your water bill is over $500 a month in the summer. If that is not something you can afford, really please reach out to us so that we can help guide you and make sure that you don't end up in a sticky situation and end up having these unexpected bills that are totally avoidable. You can end up in amazing communities with free irrigation water. Well, not free, included in your HOA dues, which are very low, and I will talk about those next. But anyway, with no further ado, my water bill, which we pay every 2 months, in December was $33.52, and in August it was $13.78. So it ranges anywhere from, I've actually had a bill a little bit lower than $13, so anywhere from, we'll call it $10 to $35, which is great. HOA dues. Your HOA is probably pretty awesome if it's here in the Treasure Valley. Typically, people are pretty happy with their HOAs. They don't just maintain your community pool and playground and green spaces and walking paths. They also make sure that your neighbor Bill doesn't paint his house purple with stripes and devalue the price of your home, which sounds really far-fetched, but I have seen that in Georgia. So I'm grateful for the HOA here. I've lived in 2 different HOAs so far, and I've been really happy with both of them. We have a pool, a park, 2 ponds with fishing, and it's completely stocked. We've got beautiful walking paths and green space. This community in particular used to be a golf course, and our HOA dues are only, I wrote it down, $83 a month, and that's about average. So typically you're looking at about $600 a month, give or take, depending on where you live in the Treasure Valley. And they're higher if there's extra pools and more water features, lower if you don't have a community pool. It just kind of depends on where you live. And sometimes within a single community, your HOA dues will be less or more depending on which part of that community you live in. So like I said, I think HOAs are great, and I know where you are, you may not love them, but here our HOAs are awesome. There's even some HOAs that include internet, which is super cool. touching on the topic of internet, I pay about $80 a month for internet, and I'm really pleased with my current internet. But that's another reason why you're going to want to reach out to us if you're at home working often and you need good internet. Good internet is getting easier to come by here in the Treasure Valley, but it is not great everywhere. And if you work from home and you're moving, keeping that job from out of state, or you have your own business, you are definitely going to want good internet. But you're looking at $60 on the low end, up to $80, $85 on the high end, depending on which company and internet you get. And then, like I said, your HOA might actually include internet and cover that for you, which is really cool. And typically those HOAs have really good internet. They considered that when they built the community. I am going to move into some of those sneaky expenses now that I promised I would share with you earlier, because not everything in Idaho is less expensive. So, lawn service. In Georgia, I had 2 acres. They came and mowed the lawn. They took care of the shrubs, raked the leaves. I paid $60 a month, and that is it. Here, that is not the case. I have a very small front and backyard, so much so that it cracks me up to see our lawn guys driving around on their lawnmower in the backyard. I'm not even quite sure how they get it in and out and why they don't just use a push mower, but whatever, that's not here or there. The lawn service, when they mow, edge, blow, do some extra cleanup with leaves, things like that, and then do our sprinkler blowouts, which is something that you'll need to do here before the first freeze to make sure your pipes don't freeze. That is our most expensive bill, and that bill in October is $236. So for $236, I'm getting what I got for $60 in Georgia, except for the yard is literally a not even a quarter. It's like half of a quarter of the size of what it used to be. And then the least expensive month, which is in December, I'm paying $65. So November, they billed me $97.50. In September, it was $177. August was also $177. Also, the lawn services here in the Treasure Valley leave much to be desired. So they don't do much more than mow your lawn. I know I listed off some other things, but we had to really push for that. So if you're in landscaping, you will have a lot of success if you open a business here. Childcare, we are in what is considered a childcare desert. We just don't have options available. So with that increased demand, drives up the price a little bit, and you're looking at about $1,000 a month per child here in the Treasure Valley for childcare. Pro tip, you need to start getting on lists for childcare before you move, or you are going to end up in a bad situation where you don't have help with your kiddos. So reach out to me. I know how to navigate that. I've done it myself, and I've helped hundreds of people relocate, and I would say a good 30 to 40% of them needed full-time childcare, and I've figured out a couple tricks along the way. I have a few connections. Can't make any promises, but that's another thing that we're really desperately in need of is preschools and daycare centers. So if you have a heart for kiddos, you will have a lot of success opening a childcare center, and you might even be able to get some help from the county because we really need them, and they're looking for people to open them. Schools. The private schools here in the Treasure Valley are much more affordable than they are in other states. So my daughter is in private school, and for a similar private school in Arizona that I looked into, you are looking at spending about 60 to 70% more for almost the exact same curriculum and style of school as what you would pay for here. So private schools, much more affordable. Sneaky costs, beauty services. Holy cow, it is expensive to go to the salon in the Treasure Valley, Idaho. You wouldn't think here out in our casual country lifestyle that it would be expensive, but it is much more expensive for a mani, a pedi, a haircut, getting your hair colored. I find myself coloring my own roots, and I've really stretched out my appointments because it can be really pricey, and that is another service that we are in dire need of, is more people, more salons. So if you are a beautician or an esthetician or a barber, we really need you, and we really need your business. So come on out this way. Dry cleaning. Dry cleaning is much more expensive in the Treasure Valley than it is other places. My dry cleaning bill went from anywhere from like $60 to $80 a month up to $150 a month. And I'm actually sending less items to the dry cleaner now than I used to. I don't really have a ton of things to dry clean, so dry cleaning can be quite high. I've had a handful of people make jokes about ammunition, but the ammunition prices here are really similar to other places. You're just going to probably spend more money on ammunition because once you come here and you have the right to get more types of guns and guns, easier access to guns and all the things, and everyone goes out and shoots, you're going to end up buying probably some more ammunition. So I know you're probably getting antsy and you really want to hear from that famous speaker that I have at the end, our guest.
Finally.
But I'm going to share with you quickly what the median sales price of the homes are here in both Ada County and Canyon County so that you know what you're looking to spend on a home. And I know that the interest rates are very high right now, but our fantabulous lender has some tricks up his sleeve, and we're still helping people relocate here every single day. And you might not have to live with that high interest rate, depending on your situation, for very long if you get yourself into a home. And you know what? The prices of homes are like double every 10 years. So even buying today, in 10 years from now with a higher interest rate, you're still going to be in a better position than if you hadn't bought that home. I know it doesn't make the burn feel any less painful, but we have been helping people. So just want to throw that in there. Ada County, that includes places like Boise, Meridian, Kuna, Star, Eagle, Garden City, and Hidden Springs. Ooh, the wind's blowing, it's blowing my paper away. We've got a median sales price for a single family home of $525,000. For a resale, so a home that is being resold, not new construction, $497 is the median sales price. And then for new construction, which they've really kept their prices pretty stable, which we will be talking about with our guest speaker, $623,237. And those prices vary greatly depending on which suburb of Boise you move to. For example, in Boise, the median sales price is $470,000, whereas in Eagle, the median sales price is $825,000. So those averages I read off, it really depends on where you're living. Meridian's really popular. That's at $508,450 for the median sales price. And then we've got Canyon County. Canyon County includes places like Nampa, Caldwell, Middleton, Parma, a few other small towns that you probably are not super familiar with, like Notice, Melba, and Greenleaf. And I need to make some videos about those areas. They're so precious and so cute. Anyway, a single family home in Canyon County is going to run you about $415,000 for the median sales price. In Nampa, you're looking at $394,500. Caldwell, $368,995. So it varies, again, depending on which suburb you move to, but not quite as much in Canyon County in those more populated areas. Not quite like it is in Ada County. So the next video, which don't leave because you have to hear the special message from our special guest. He is really brilliant, and I think you're absolutely going to love what he has to teach you. In the next video, I am going to cover things like hunting and fishing, taxes, eating out, so recreation type things in conjunction with taxes, because taxes are very important, but I think it's important to throw some fun things in there, right? So why not talk about recreation on the same video we talk about taxes?
All right. So Rachel asked me to come on and talk to you guys really quick about what is going on in the Treasure Valley real estate market, because you know, what you might be reading online or you're reading in the news might not be correlating with what you're seeing in the actual markets here. And the reality is that what we saw in 2022 was what they are calling a transitional year. The Fed wanted to reset the market. So what they do, they raised up interest rates, and it brought on less demand, which naturally increased our supply. Unfortunately, the supply didn't raise because they built more houses or started new starts or people decided to sell their house. No, the reason that the inventory has started to raise is because the interest rates are higher. So buyers are either waiting on the sidelines or they just decided not to move forward in their purchase, because what everyone is believing and everyone is in this, doomsday mindset is that the real estate industry is going to crash. Well, if you haven't seen in the headlines recently, there hasn't been really too much doomsday real estate market happening. And, everybody was all about the clickbait. They were all about the market's going to crash. It's another 2006. The biggest difference between this and what happened back then is that we have no inventory. We have no inventory now. So in 2006, you had a lot of inventory. And then when demand came down, then guess what? You had this big old bubble that was created. So that's how the bubble happens. Right now, what we have is we had, demand at an all-time high. So we basically had this inverted bubble. So we had demand at an all-time high and we had supply really low. So then what we start to have is this balancing act. So right now, what we keep seeing is that the markets have met here. The supply and demand are almost equal. And we keep seeing it go like this, up, down, up, down. We've seen the demand go a little bit lower than supply. So it's like this, but it's still really low. So that's basically what's happening. We're not seeing this bubble happen like this where this gap really widens. So a lot of people are calling us. They're like, well, why isn't the housing market or prices coming down? So for the first time in a long time, the year over year numbers, the market was down 2% in November and then 5% in December. So versus last year. So if the market's only going down 2 to 5%, a $500,000 house, at 5% off is $25,000 less. Where we're really seeing the market take the biggest hit is really in the high-end markets, luxury, anything over, say, $1 million. And, people always ask me all the time, they're like, I want the best deal. Well, any house that's priced accurately, in great condition, and in a great location is going to sell really quickly. Houses that are overpriced, those are the ones we're seeing sitting in the market for a long time. Those are the ones that you can get less than list price. So what I always want to know is like, what do you see as a value? Is it getting money off the list price, or is it, getting a house for fair market value? The great thing about buyers in this current market is, and people are always like, well, if inventory is rising, what's that doing to the markets? So the inventory has actually, about doubled, which is great for a buyer. So our market is still deemed as like a seller's market, because under 4 months of inventory is a seller's market, 4 to 6 is a balanced market, and then 6 and above is a buyer's market. We actually haven't seen as few of homes sell in 2022 as we saw in 2014. So in 2022, 20.8% less homes sold in 2022 versus 2021. And obviously in 2021, you had super low interest rates. Everybody could work from home, the pandemic and all that stuff. So it created a really interesting real estate market, which obviously when there was fewer homes sold and everybody had all these great, positions to buy in, then it actually is going to increase the price points. Now those new price points are what people are looking at as comps. So when the market year over year is only dropping 2 to 5%, it really isn't that big of a thing. And the reason why, like I said before, it's because we have such low supply, and the supply that's building up, like I said, it's not because of new construction or people putting their house on the market. It's because buyers leaving. So what's going to happen is when interest rates come back down, or if buyers start realizing that this is just the norm, which 5 to 6% interest rates is pretty normal compared to historical rates, they're going to start coming back. They're going to start buying, and it's going to weaken our supply again. And it's going to start creating bidding wars. The inventory today isn't being driven because of new starts or people wanting to put their house on the market. It's 100% driven to buyers leaving the market or putting their search on pause because they had this belief that the market was going to crash. And like I said, you don't even see those market crashing clickbait titles coming out anymore because people know that our demand was relatively low, supply was relatively low, so it just keeps going up and down, up and down. There's no widening of the gaps. They say if you were comparing any markets to what we are in today, they said it's most comparable to the market in 2010, which was post-market crash. So as a buyer, you have tons of opportunities. You have tons of leverage. You don't have to waive inspections. You don't have to waive your appraisal contingencies. You get to go in there, you get to make your offer. The seller gets to accept or counter us back. And then you move forward with your inspections. You get to move forward with your appraisal. Back when the market was crazy, You put in your offer, you were able to do your inspection, but you weren't able to ask for any repairs. It was just for your own knowledge. And then if the house was listed at 500 and your offer got accepted, you had to go up to 600. You had to sign a document that said that if the appraisal came in at anything under 600, you would offset the difference with cash out of pocket. Most of the times the appraisals came in at market value because demand and supply also weigh into what the house is actually worth. It's like anything else. We see it with eggs right now. The price of eggs are skyrocketing because there's maybe not a shortage, right? So, as a buyer, you're actually in a great position in today's market because you got options and you have leverage, So my only fear from representing buyers on that side is that people start waking up and they start deciding like, oh, this is the norm now, because it takes us a few months to realize. And then all of a sudden buyers flood back in and we're back into the same position we were in 2021 because the inventory just isn't there based on a healthy buyer's market. So we could see the markets turn in about 30 to 60 days. So people always have a little bit of time to react, but if it starts happening again, or if you are sitting on the sidelines just saying like, oh, I'm going to wait for the market to crash, I can tell you it's just not going to happen. There was I think they were saying last year there was 800 homes on the market and now there's 1,600. Well, going from 800 to 1,600 really isn't that big of a deal, a big amount of homes, like a big volume number, right? So it's always about being educated and understanding what the markets are doing. That's the one thing that we absolutely love working with our clients. It's saying, hey, well, what does a mortgage look like in today's market? I was kind of shocked to see the other day. I was working with a client and they were like, well, I was pre-approved at 4%. And then right now you can get me in at 5.5. Like, what does that look like on my as a payment difference? And ended up being like $400 a month more, which in some cases that's a lot of money. Some people might be like, oh, I thought it was going to be $1,000 more, and they were actually really excited. There's also other programs out there for lending that things such as a 2-1 buy down. So say the rate's at 6% today, and this is all seller funded. It's not buyer funded, which is great for you. So as a buyer, we write our offer. We ask the seller to, cover the costs in doing a 2-1 buy down. So what that means is if the rate's at 6% today, we're going to get you locked in at 4% for the next 12 months. And then the following 12 months, it'll go 5%. And then the following 12 months after that and moving forward, it'll lock back in at the current market rate of today. What a lot of banks are also offering on top of that is a refinance. So I don't want to get too much into the statistics of financing and interest rates because I'm not a lender. But what I do know is that when the rates were really low, you didn't have to pay the government for loans. They call them like points. So let's just say, for example, the market, they say that you have to, your closing cost, you have to pay 4 points. So say today they're telling you have to pay 4 points towards any loan submitted or closed. Okay, well, if it's a high number, so when the rates were really low, there was no basis points you had to pay. Well, now it's like 2, 3, 4 basis points. And what that's telling me is that the banking system knows that the rates are going to be down within the next, 1 to 2 years, maybe even 6 months. So they're anticipating everybody refinancing to a lower rate. This is why a lot of these banks are also offering free refinances today too, which I think is super important, and what I mean by free refinances is you still have to pay, the title insurance. It's just the banks aren't making money on your finances because they want to keep your loan with the company when rates end up dropping again, which is actually a good sign to see because everyone's saying that the rates are going to drop, sometime in 2023. And when I say drop, probably in that high 4s, the mid 5s, the Fed keeps dropping rates down to 5.5 just to see how it reacts. And we're seeing a lot of applications go in and a lot of mortgages lock at that 5.5%. So as long as we're in that, high 4s to mid 5s, I say we're in a great position. Today's rate, when I looked, it was at 5.9. So we're almost there. And you can always get down to 5.5. You can always get down to 5. You can even get down to 4. You can buy down to any rate that you want. So when you see all these other rate companies out there saying like, we got 5% or 4% or 3%, it's like, yeah, anybody can get you that, but it's going to cost some money. And so we like to look at all the equations, work it backwards. We love showing you exactly what you can buy with what, what type of mortgage you're trying to stay under. It's never like, how much do you make? And let's shove you into the highest payment possible. No. when we schedule calls with our team, it's people will say, well, what does it look like if I were to buy a $2,500 house or a month house? Like, what does it look like if I were to spend $3,000 a month? And then we work those numbers backwards. We actually build out a spreadsheet, show all the numbers based on, 5, 10, 15, 20% down. And it gives you a point of reference when you're looking in the market, because sometimes people come out here and they decide that this isn't for them. Sometimes people come out here and they think they're coming out to take a discovery tour and they're going to just check the market out and they end up buying a house while they're here. So there's so many different options. There's so many different possibilities, but we absolutely love the fact that you guys watch our channel, and we'll be super grateful if we have the chance to work with you or at least give you some education or give you some information when you reach out. So that's it for my segment. And until the next time, we'll catch you later.
There are 3 nonprofits here in Idaho that are very near and dear to our heart, and we make a donation with every transaction on your behalf for $500. One of those nonprofits is COBS, and that helps victims of sex trafficking here locally with their recovery period. We help Idaho Freedom Foundation, which helps keep our state free, and Upstream, which helps protect our kiddos from being indoctrinated here in the public school system. So keep in mind, anytime you give us a call, shoot us a text, or write us an email, our heart is to help you relocate here and then to keep passing things back into things, keep passing back on and giving back, paying it forward to our community to help keep Idaho, Idaho.